I'm gonna record this. If anyone minds, just say so. Then we don't publish it, but otherwise it could contain useful info for others too. Okay, just a very brief wrap up of where this comes from for people who didn't know so much. We've organized Sumanities since a year and a half. The first one was kind of around the idea of let's take a small retreat in a monastery setting with a group of people to think about where is this world going. Maybe we need to reflect a little bit at a deeper level and think about what are the changes we want to see, what are we afraid of, what is the world we want to see, what are the decisions we can make to move forward into the world we want to see. And then that was 3 days. Some of that content ended up on humanitysolutions.net, the website, and COVID happened. We've been moving forward on a number of levels, but one thing is a continuation of Sumanities. Now we do once a month around a particular topic. Sometimes we have a larger group, sometimes a smaller group, but we aim to have a cycle of these topics in the year. We've just moved from the start of the year, first from the basics, the body, the mind, the atmosphere, things like truth, then looking at grounds, water, energy, land. And the next cycle, the next 6 months are about what can you put on this land, construction, production, investing, and how can you build a peaceful, just community on a land, secure society, etc. So this is the cycle we've been going through, and we take a topic every time. Today is about investing. One of the things that has come forward was the notion of there's a lot of consumption going on. Some of it is helpful, some of it may not be smart. So one of the underlying themes throughout the Summanity talks is, can we move from harmful consumption to smart investing? And that is, what does that mean? It can mean many things, but we definitely don't only mean a large-scale investments or professional investments. It can also mean at a personal level, what do you acquire now that helps you position for the future, or what do you invest in? Even if it's a very small thing to invest in, it does not mean it has to be big. Investing can be done with money, but it can also be done with attention or effort or time spent. So that's how we look at it. That in a way, everybody can be an investor in the large sense of the word. So today we'll talk about that. We also mentioned legal uncertainty, because partially what we look at with Summanity is, and with Humanity Solutions, is how can you invest to create the preconditions of the world you want to see? So it's more than just investing to make money. It's also investing in a direction that helps you navigate volatility, but maybe also helps to create the world you want to see. And so that's in the backdrop. Some context around this. You know that there is humanitysolutions.net. You find a bit more information about what our organization is up to and is working on. Summanity.com, you see a bit more information on all the Summanities, and Foresight Transitions. You can find a bit more information on how do we work with corporations or organizations to guide them to transition forward. We also, underneath these Foresight Transitions, there's a few elements we look at, and there is one that is about foresight properties, which is the notion, which properties can you acquire or invest in today that can position you and your family or your organization better for the next 5, 10, or 20 years in current times. So all these other elements on this slide, there are some examples of some other properties we are developing, and property for us can be as small as a website, a web domain name to start from. That's a very, let's say, the smallest form of property we think that you can work with to start shaping the future of tomorrow. So that's some general background. So one of the things that has been happening on the property front is, on the one hand, there's digital properties we've been working on, but also we've been looking at some real estate or some land that can be interesting for this world of tomorrow that we want to move towards. And there is Robert's family has a piece of land that they wish to develop, and Humanity Solutions could help develop a part of that land. And so Robert will also present that. So it's one case study we can look at today. But in addition, all of you may have a kind of ideas or notions of investing at the edges, at the frontiers of what you can imagine, what you wish. This could be you're fascinated by decentralized currencies or bitcoins or cryptocurrencies, and you're considering investing in that, but there's uncertainty around that. A piece of land in an emerging country or an emerging market, but there's legal uncertainty around that. So sometimes investing at the edges meaning of the newly arising worlds, can also bring legal uncertainty. So that's also a topic you can talk about. We're going to do a round later, but I suggest we first start with a short presentation on this Gulu land, just as one case study, like a 5-minute presentation. We can start from that, discuss around that, but then it's nice if we do a circle with all of you here to understand how do you look at investing into the future, investing into uncertain future, what is important for you, what can help you, what are the decisions you take, and what are tools or tips and tricks that can help others above and beyond this Gulu example. Is that good? Is that enough context for now? I hope so. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And I see that some more people came in. They will also have a chance to speak later. Robert, shall we start with your piece of property investment opportunity, land that you want to present, just as a case study of what can it mean investing into the future? Can you?
Thank you, Will. I'll just share my screen. Yeah. So quickly. This is a land located in Uganda, a city called Gulu, and it's in the north of Uganda. So I'll just go through quickly on the background on the land. I hope I can do it in 5 minutes, and the size of the land and what kind of opportunities that the land can offer, and what the family is doing right now.
Because it's a fairly small group today, you can take a bit more than 5 minutes if you need it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Will. Yeah. So the picture you see, it's a sunrise in Chwero. If you wake up in the morning, this is the light that you'll see when you wake up in Chwero. So I come from a family of 9 members, headed by my mom, and we have 3 girls and 5 boys. If you see the pictures, the land belongs to the family, and my mom is the administrator of the estate, which is the land. Just briefly, she's a former fishmonger, now retired in Gulu. She stays at home. She's a homestay mom because she got an accident in 2011. But right now she does subsistence agriculture and some small retail shop. And she's basically involved in women local circle groups in Obia Island. So just to bring the context to the land is located in Achua County, one of the counties in Gulu district, and it's 255 hectares, registered in 1982 in accordance to the Land Act. And as you can see, the Uganda registration, the reference, the folios, and the years and is registered in the names of Ola Festo Odun. That's my late dad. He passed on in 2018. As you can see, the traverse diagram shows where the markstones are on the land. And if you see a satellite image, I don't know if you can all see my cursor, but the land is surrounded by streams or rivers, if I can say in simple terms. And this entire land is 250 hectares. And can you all see my cursor?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So this road passes through the land. It's a very big road that connects two towns, Omoro and Awach. And River Lawin, as you approach in the land, runs from this side, as you can see. It meets Kijuma, and it circles the entire land. And this road it goes up to Moroto, connects to Lira as well. As you can see from the satellite image, it looks very plain and no building or residential building in it, simply because Gulu has been an area that has been in war, and we never used to stay in it. So we had to move and migrate to town. So there's never been any serious investment on the land. So just briefly, in the 80s, it was called Kinene Estate Farm. So my dad, in his plan, when he acquired the land and made the registration, his idea was to build one of the biggest farm in northern Uganda. And it was tending towards that. It had a tractor field, almost 200 herds of cattle, goats and sheep, birds, chicken, turkey, ducks. It had a beekeeping, and the land was also investing a lot of crops like rice, sesame, sorghum, and maize. And the challenge that the land experienced, first, it was the fall of Obote government. Obote government had a plan to develop land such as this, and also that's how the land acquired the tractor field for its development plan. So when the regime changed, of course, the government had to hold all the other plans that it had given to farms that were distributed implements by the government. And also, there were cattle raids from Karamojong. Now, Karamojongs are neighbors in the north, in Gulu. And they're pastoralists, and they've done a lot of cattle raiding in the area of northern Uganda. And lastly, the biggest hit was the Lost Resistance Movement rebellion, which ended until 2010. When some bit of peace now came into place and the rebels were pushed into Congo, you couldn't do any agriculture in the place. So the land was completely abandoned and the family was not using it at all. But since 2010, that's from around 2010, my dad started plans to revive the land, to bring it back to its former glory. But of course, he has been met with a lot of challenges in the process. The first one was the accident that my mom got that completely stopped whatever the family was doing in terms of any investment, and we had to focus on our health. Then secondly, again, it picked up on the second phase when my dad retired from his civil service, and because he was a veterinary doctor, and started focusing on rebuilding the land back. But of course, at that point, he was challenged with focusing on paying school fees and so many other things in the family. So he never really got the capacity to develop the land. Then the third phase, which I call it the phase that we are in right now, being spearheaded by me. Alice, she has also joined the meet. She's also in the meeting, and my brother Daniel, of course, under the guidance of my mom, we are trying to revive back the land, looking at some of the goals that my dad had set. And if you look at the effort that all these phases have been looking towards, similar things come into play: subsistence agriculture, cattle rearing, building homestead, and setting a homestead. And recently, also we got into collaboration with Summanity Hub to try and set up something in the land, a conversation which is ongoing between the family and Summanity Hub, which we think would create something substantial in the area in terms of developing the land, not only from the things that the efforts that I've highlighted, but also things that can benefit the entire community that are settled around the land. Now, the challenge that the family experiencing with the land, I mentioned earlier on that the area underwent through insurgency, and a lot of people moved out of their land. And now that we have peace, people are kind of trying to come back into their land. So there's a lot of land conflict in northern Uganda, even land that have titles that are registered. And particularly also our land has the same issue. So if you look at the diagram from the satellite image, which looks like a mean face if you tilt your head, so we have about 3 people that have trespassed on the land. We try to call them neighbors, not trespassers. Trespassers number 1 covers the biggest part of the land. He has set up. He kind of also have the same vision that the family is trying to put. He has set up a big farm, has some cattle, and has some homestead, and he has built there. And trespassers number 2 has built some temporary structure, and trespassers number 3 has also done the same thing. And all these trespassers, we are not sure how much they've covered, but from the look of things, they seem to have covered about 60% of the land. I earlier on said the land is 255 hectares. But the family is engaged in a conflict resolution right now as we try to redevelop the land. The first step that we have taken, we have had a conversation with the local council, that's the LC of the area, bringing all the parties together, and we have had meetings, and the meetings have so far been fruitful. The second stage, we have also having a conversation with the resident district commissioner. The police now is involved, and the district land board as well. If you look at the trespasser number 1, now trespasser number 1 has been able to get also a title. It happens in Uganda. Of course, it's it's something which may be strange for some of you, but in Uganda, you can have a title on another title. So trespasser number 1 has been able to process a title, but the district land board have acknowledged that the titles are overlapping each other. One title is on another title. So that's the conversation we are trying to have right now with the trespasser number 1 and 2 and 3. If you see a letter on action step number 3, it's a letter that has been written by the district land board, recognizing that they have files for both lands, and they're instructing a whole survey of the land and boundary opening to understand exactly which who who owns which part of the land. So that's the next step that the family at the moment is in. But of course, the family has been given a go-ahead to continue with the progress that or the things that they have planned to do. And I want to just quickly highlight some of the opportunities that this land provides. Number one, the land is centrally located. It connects Omoro and Awache headquarters. It's about 30 kilometers from Gulu. It was previously a district, but 2 months last year it became a city, and it has a very huge population and a very huge potential, of course, for production in terms of agriculture. The conversation that the family has had is that the land can, number one, set up agriculture, a demonstration farm for growing crops such as maize, sunflower, ginger, sesame, rice, sweet potatoes. I have people that have joined from the area. They can later on chip in and give in their opinion on crops that can really grow in the area. Two, so the area is covered with streams that flows in, season out. I mean both dry and wet season. So the streams don't dry. It has streams that flow in, and so there is huge potential for irrigation in the area. And with irrigation and agriculture, also there's possibility for water harvesting for the area, because one challenge that communities around that area experience is access to clean water. There's only one borehole in the area. So as you're doing irrigation for the crops and plants, there's also a possibility to set up maybe a water reservoir or a water supply system for the communities that are settled in the area. Number three is agroforestry. There are trees that really grow very well, pine trees, eucalyptus, or mahogany. Though research shows that some of these trees are not, others are, if you grow them, they have what they call the land won't be used well for agriculture, but we see potential in the surrounding areas or the fencing of the area. There's a possibility of growing the trees around the land. And also agroforestry is a huge base in terms of, for example, in terms of poles for electricity and for construction. The fourth one is the conversation we're trying to have with Humanity. Humanity Hub is the possibility of building a recreation center or a business center for the community, sort of a peace building or a reconciliation center or a capacity building or a library. I've just talked of the land connects two districts, that's Omoro and Awache district, and Awache district, and also Gulu as a city is close by. So you can set up something like a recreation center or a library or a photocopy, basically a business center. The fifth one is cattle rearing. It has very good, you can set up a paddock system for cattle, sheep. You can do bird as well for poultry. The number of hotels which are coming up, so you can easily sell those birds to the different, sell the chicken to the different hotels, but also schools that are in the area when they're ready. The last one is also a community center. You can set up a community center because so Kinene is located, previously during the war, there was a camp. We had camps all over northern Uganda, and the land is close to a place that was formerly a camp. And that area right now is a trading center. So it also has potential for example, if you set up a petrol station, it's a road that connects two towns. So a petrol station can easily work. A computer center, so it's an area that's also still struggling with internet connection. So a possibility of setting a computer center would also be very good for the area. If I miss out anything, Alice can add on. So if you look at the pictures, these are currently things that the family are doing on the ground. And others is through partnership with Humanity as well. As we see, we have started massive agriculture. Yeah, if you see on the right here, I don't know if it's your right or your left, community members participating in they're really involved in trying to bring back the real glory of the land. So they often come and dig together with the family and things like that. So right now we have grown rice, sweet potatoes, and simsim. Just briefly to explain the pictures, this bridge is the stream that I was talking about. That's the bridge that's Kijuma. It's called River Kijuma. It's a bridge that connects the land to the other side. So the land it's almost like an island, but almost surrounded by the streams. Okay, so that's the bridge. And during rainy season, it can really, really get full with water flowing. And this is the road that connects the two districts. And if you look at the temporary structure, there's a hut there that has been built on the land for the family to go there. You can stay there, and there is plan to put up a permanent structure in the area. If you see the picture, this is Alice working on sweet potatoes, and on your right you have rice. And yeah, this is basically the town. It's called Chuero town, and it's about 2 kilometers from the main town of Chuero. And yeah, and this is the part of the land where a business center or a community center is supposed to be set up with partnership with Humanity. I don't know if anyone has anything to add. Alice, Daniel, Daniel is joining from the land right now with some LCs. I don't know if he's online. But I know Joel is also in Gulu and Alice is in Gulu as well. So feel free to add anything. Yes, thank you, Will, for this opportunity to share this with like-minded people.
Well, thank you too, Robert. And I know this is also a very personal story, of course, for you and your family. For Humanity Solutions, it also represents, and Summanity, there's a lot of people in Europe or in highly densely populated areas, cities that kind of also long for a connection to nature or the land or rural area and learning skills around it. So and there's this notion we play with that is complementary assets. So one way to navigate volatility if you live in a city is to also have an asset outside of the city or connect to properties in different worlds. So you have more options and you can enrich yourself more. And so there's many more people in cities that are also longing for this connection with land and developing land. And this particular example is very large, a lot of opportunities. Uganda has a very fastly growing population. So that's also interesting. It's very different than if you are in a European context where there's many areas where population is stagnating or decreasing gradually. and very regulated areas. But this is an example of an area where population is increasing fast and where there is a lot of growth to be expected also in the years to come, but a potentially high risk investment. Do you have a question? Maybe we can just first wrap up on the Gulu land as an example, and then start around with others who are also going to questions of what do they invest in, etc., separate from the Gulu land. But in relation to the Gulu land, maybe a question to you and the family, Robert, is: do you have a question for the group that you would like others to? Do you have a specific question for people in this call that could help you? And then we can do a quick round of everyone who wants to add something on that. Or shall I ask a question to the group? What do you prefer? Does anyone from the Gululand family have a particular question? Otherwise, my question would just be to the group, and we can, like, anyone who wants to say something on this is: do you see?
I can add on something little.
Yeah, please do.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Will, for this opportunity, and thank you, Robert, for the presentation. I just want to add on this that the family and the local authorities are working closely. And I want to say this, that the family has got the goodwill of the authority, and they are willing to see that this conflict is resolved in a peaceful manner, and in a manner that is not so costly. Because, you know, in Uganda, the processes of justice is a very expensive process. And I would want to say that the RDC, the Resident District Commissioner, when he got to when we presented this case to him, and he looks at the papers, the documents that my late father kept, he immediately said he has to get to the truth of the matter, and immediately started consulting with the authorities that give these documents to see the authenticity of these documents. And we are grateful as a family that the Senior Land Management Board has already acknowledged that they have the files in their custody. They have the files with them. They search for the files under his order, and they got the files. So they have our file, and they have the file of one of the trespassers or our neighbors who also has a file. So they are the ones who have already advised the Resident District Commissioner that we need to go to the land with a surveyor in order to see how much overlap is there for any step to be taken. So we're waiting for the Resident District Commissioner to really come in, because he wants to build up a team that will iron out these conflicts in a peaceful manner, in a manner that it is not going to be very costly for the family. Of course, there are expenses here and there that already came in, especially he already contacted us, the family, and asked us to mobilize resources for when we are going on the...
Alice, you're dropping. Maybe a small connection issue, but I think we got the point. Just for everyone, for Humanity Solutions and Summanity, it's always been very clear that we only want to, let's say, engage when there's a good understanding with the family and the community, and be very careful about disrupting something from abroad too quickly. Are there any reactions in this group? Does anyone want to say, hey, this is interesting, I see opportunities, or I have questions, or I relate this to legal certainty and I have interesting knowledge, tools, tips, tricks? Anyone who has something to add on this?
Yes, thank you very much, Will. My name is Joel Rubampewan. I'm Robert's friend.
Okay.
We've been friends since high school. and we've been doing a lot of work together. And we have a family farm in the same area. It's called Homa Farm Limited. I just wanted to add a little on what Alice just mentioned about the titles and all that, about one of the trespassers having a title. Yes, it's the Ugandan law recognizes about four types of land. That is the freehold system of ownership. And then there is the Milo, which is a common tenure system in the Buganda region. And then there is customary. And then there is leasehold. Leasehold is mainly for foreigners. For example, if you're a foreigner and probably you have a work permit in Uganda or a resident permit in Uganda, and you want to own land, so you can own land in form of freehold, in form of what leasehold tenure system. The beauty about what Ali said is that yes, much as the trespasser like has probably documents to that particular portion of land, I think it's obvious and it goes without saying that it's principle. It's a principle in law that once someone owns land and someone has a good title, then that person binds the entire world. And in most cases, they look at the first person, like who was the first, like which title came before and which title came after. So I think that is not a big challenge, and it's something that is going to be resolved. And I like the fact that these guys are actually using mediation, using all possible ways to resolve this particular matter. I would also like to add on what Robert said. Omel is a very interesting place. There's a number of farmers doing commercial farming. I, for one, I know about 10 people doing commercial farming on large scale. And it's good for, the land is basic, it's surrounded by streams, and that stream connects directly to River Achua. River Achua is one of the biggest, it's one of the biggest rivers in the north as you tend to move towards Kidgum. So the land is good for irrigation. There is a potential market base in Chwero, Waj, and within Gulu City. Gulu City is growing so fast. And the beauty about this land is that it's along the roadside, meaning that each and every time, if you set up like an eco tourism center, it will be really nice because we normally have a number of tourists coming from Europe, coming from United States, coming from Asia, coming from different parts of the world that normally travel to Chidepo National Park. And so most times they use this long route and they pass through Chwero via Kidgum as they travel to Queen Elizabeth. So it would be nice to have something also along the way, so that because the journey from Kampala, basically it's about 5 hours. And then if you to put let me say from Entebbe to Kampala, it's 1 or 2 hours. From Kampala to Gulu with traffic jam and something like that, it's about 5 to 6 hours. Those are 8 hours. Just imagine someone came to Uganda today and he wants to travel to Chidepo. So that particular person would be looking for a spot somewhere where they can actually go and relax a little before they reach Chidepo, or somewhere where to sleep. So I also think tourism would also work in the area. And these major streams also, the Lawin, Robert talked about Lawin. You saw that in the map. Some of these streams basically have small, I should say, small waterfalls that are basically not known to other people. So that is also another opportunity that you guys that they as a family can actually look into in order to promote the ecosystem in that particular, in the area of Omel, Chwero. Yes. Yeah. Basically, those were my few thoughts that I thought that I should share with the team. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. The reason why we also find this land an interesting case study is just that it is possible. It is an example like some other places around the world where with a relatively small investment, you can start to become involved, learn, help the community, help a family. And also, so it is not necessarily a very big investment needed to become part of such initiatives. And that also means just building simple constructions first before moving forward to bigger constructions, etc. Does anyone else in the group want to say something, ask something about this land, talk about this from your perspective?
Yeah, I would like to say something. So I'm Natalia Nino, and my background is actually in accounting, but I met Robo here. I'm currently in The Hague, and we're doing the master's in development studies together. So he asked me to join because I come from agriculture, farming, and environmental studies. That's my focus, while he is in the more like the SJP side, which is the judicial process. But I was interested in, and I don't know if Rob was here because I know he's at a restaurant, so he might be in and out, but there he is. What I was thinking is that I recently visited a commons here off the islands in the Netherlands, and where I'm just interested in if Robo's family would be interested in kind of like almost selling rights to access the land, but only for example, grazing purposes, like letting like the sheep, goat, or any cattle graze there. That way it's a bit more sustainable and we're not doing like invasive constructions on it. So it's kind of like a commons, but not really, because it would still be under investments and you could still make money off of it. So I was just thinking about that.
It's an interesting question. Thank you. Anyone else has and maybe we can let's capture some questions or suggestions and then maybe see whether the family wants to react already. Anyone else? Question, suggestion on this?
Maybe I can just ask one question if no one else is going. And that's about this, because it seems like there's sort of two things, and I was wondering if there's a sequence, if they're happening in parallel. That's a sort of legal issue about the land rights, and the other is the various investments that you laid out, Robert, and other people mentioned. Are you planning on these sort of parallel tracks, or are you going to try to resolve the land right issues first before the other investments are made? And how long do you think the land right issue will realistically take?
Yeah. It's a good question. Anyone else? Another question? Then we can bundle them together maybe. Another question or suggestion? No? Okay. Maybe someone from the family can react first, and then I can complement if there's anything left. Access rights, selling access rights. So not property, not renting, but just occasional access as a way to be maybe more sustainable and have some revenue. Robert, or?
Yeah, I hope you can all hear me.
Yeah.
People have started adding some music. But yes, Natalia, thank you. Thank you for joining. The biggest issue that the family has had over time is the capacity to use this land, 255 hectares. I think personally, I'm also in a space where I think now I have the opportunity also to build as many collaboration as possible. And I'm also looking for like-minded people to like do something on the land. But of course, sustainability is always the question that comes into the family's conversation. The land is very fertile. It's clay soil, and whatever that will be set up in the land, we intend for it to remain as very fertile and also the nature which is there, the trees, the plants which is there, we want them to remain there. So any activities which will keep those on the ground, of course, we welcome that partnership on the land. And grazing, so the area was previously in the 80s was gazetted for ranching, and for then later it became basically for keeping animals. So, and animals flourish very well in the area. So I would be interested to have more of the more conversation on that line. What exactly you think should be set on the ground and how we can go ahead to set that. On the legal issue, I didn't hear very well, but maybe Alice can also add on. The legal issue has been an issue for quite some time. But I think right now has been the biggest step that the family has taken. Sitting down all the local authorities, sitting down with the neighbors and having a meaningful and a truthful conversation on the land. We have reached a point where, like Ali said, there's going to be a whole survey of the land to determine who has trespassed to which area and which title needs to be cancelled. So of course the family tries to follow all the legal mechanism available, but also we think mediation is the process that should guide us along this line, because we call them neighbors. Okay, so we want to continue staying with them. Onto how long it will take, I'm not sure, but of course Hillary is a lawyer, can maybe add more to this. But I'm quite certain if we do the survey, which should have happened this week if it wasn't because of the lockdown that the president announced a few days ago, we should be doing a real boundary opening and full survey. If we know that, then things will be more clear, because the issue on the ground was that other people are saying the title is fake, there's no title, but also that comes with people not understanding the law and what amounts to title, what amounts to having a leasehold title registry.
Yeah. And maybe just a general challenge for many people investing in a place where there's a lot of change and coming from a lot of change and volatility, that to wait completely until there's 100% certainty sometimes does not allow you to build knowledge or to make sure there's not many other trespassers or neighbors, or so it's also a way of stabilizing the situation to start investing into it. Also for the community to see that you're committed, that you're serious, for trespassers to stop taking more of it, etc. And that's also, so it's also linked with risk taking and risk management, and doing sometimes these things in parallel, the same way that you would do in investing in other new asset classes that are new or innovative. Or there's also some of that. Anyone else wants to say something on this, or otherwise we will move on to a slightly broader topic? Yeah, who is that? Alice?
Yes, Wilfred.
Yeah,
Wilfred, thank you so much. I actually wanted to add on a little bit on what Robert said, that as much as we are still in the legal uncertainty of the land, I would also want to say that it doesn't stop us from utilizing the land, because it's just a section of it that has been trespassed. But if you see, there is also much that has remained that we can really utilize this land. as well as go ahead in pursuing the legal perspective of this land to get the full ownership of this land. And I want to say that even the fact that this letter has already come out from the land board, acknowledging that there is already an overlap of title, they as well goes ahead to tell us to continue and utilize the land. Whatsoever has remained, we utilize it in order for the trespassers to see that the landowners are there and they're really on the ground and they're committed in what? In using their land. So as much as we're going with the resolution, we don't want to break or give any break that we are not utilizing this land. Actually, for me, my contract ended in April. I'm now currently not working, and it is a great opportunity to always go to the land and actually utilize and see. At the moment, we've put their crops on the ground that we need to weed. We need to actually clear the ground. So we are actually utilizing the land as much as the authority has given us the go ahead to utilize the land as we follow the legal aspects of ownership of the land.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think
Can I also add something?
Yeah, but short, because then we have to move to other topics. Short, Joel.
Yes. I just wanted to add something little on what Alice and Robert has said. Yes, basing on the legal challenge. This stems from the fact that the war in northern Uganda, when Robert started his presentation, the war in northern Uganda also brought a lot of confusion in the surrounding or in the society here in Gulu, because people stayed in IDP camps for close to about 20 years. And some of these kids that are literally bringing in confusion that this land belongs to their parents, this land belongs to their family. It's because of the fact that guys were in IDP camps and some of them were born in the IDP camps. So they literally do not know the boundaries. So the first resort to mediation would mediation and conciliation would actually help. And I think that is the best decision the family has taken, to consider them as neighbors much as they're trespassers. So I totally think that would help, and even faster, it would fasten the process of resolution. Because if you have a good understanding first with the trespassers, and then you resorting to mediation, then now they're working on the land. I totally agree to what Ali said about the continuous improvement or engagement in the land. That would actually be beneficial, because through that, you'd also be creating a lot of rapport with the different community members. Yeah,
It's true. Okay, great. Let's open the discussion a little bit. We've been listening an hour, so maybe we can also just stand up for a second, shake your legs, whatever you need to do to get some new energy. I surely sometimes need that, but we have 30 minutes left. And what I would suggest we do in the next 30 minutes is just take 15 minutes for a quick round of all of you to give you a chance, for those who want to speak, on what is holding you back, what are the problems relating to investing in the future you can imagine. It can be for making money, but also for building that future. What do you find interesting? Why, what are the problems that you face in terms of investing? And then the last 15 minutes with a round where you can share some solutions, some tips and tricks in the chat, and anyone who feels like it can share some words. Is that, shall we do it like that? I'm just going to stand and shake my legs for a second, and then we can start with the first person who wants to take the word on that. Okay? I'm just gonna move, and then is there anyone who wishes to speak about his or her problems in relating to investing more courageously in uncertain contexts, or building that world you can imagine? Who feels like saying something about that?
I can go if there's no one.
Go, Robert. You show them.
Yeah, I think for me, something that limits my investment is I feel like I've kind of lost a bit of creativity in terms of doing my own personal thing. Because right now I'm deeply chasing my career, and I'm entering this development world, and I've been in the NGO world for the past 4 or 5 years, and I've kind of got used to the salary kind of survival, and when the more you get into the NGO world, the more you want to climb up the ladder, you want to start earning more money in the process, and your investment level and thinking goes even more downwards, you know. And for me that's my biggest worry. So, but every time I'm trying to challenge myself, like, at what point am I going to jump out of this and like say, okay, I'm no longer involved in these policy things. I'm just setting my own investment, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is where I'm going to earn. This is where I'm going to live for. So that thin line is the thing that I'm like really challenged in. But yeah, also I try to build as much connection. That's now on the positive side. I try to build as much connection as possible to also help me in whatever plans that I have towards an investment that I'm looking at. Even though the plans are usually not so clear, but and all not well presented, but oftentimes I try to share it with so many other people and just see what I can build and what kind of things I can set up. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very it's helpful. It's interesting. It's also interesting you don't consider, I mean, you can also say I'm investing in my career right now, but yes, it is different if you work paid by the hour, or if you have an investment that can start developing like something that's not paid by the hour. Yeah. Who else wants to share something?
I can get in there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Alice.
Yeah, I would say for me, I've been in the NGO world for the last 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been thinking of investment. I would say this is the 5th year that I've been thinking of personally setting up something that could really be sustainable, and it makes me jump out of the NGO world. And for me, it has been when to start, really. When to start has really not been something on my fingertips, but I've been having this idea all along for the last 5 years. I actually even want to say that when my contract, actually I've not been having stable contracts since last year. I've been having 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, and it is actually not causing me lack of sleep, because I see myself that I am not now the type to be in the NGO world. Okay. I am now the type to, I've already gained enough experience that I should gather it up and do an investment that will be sustainable for myself and for the community. So it has really been when I should have started this. And I feel it is now putting pressure on myself that I'm running out of time to have created that before. So
Yeah.
it's just that.
Okay, interesting. Who else? I much appreciate the personal honesty everyone's bringing. Who else? Natalia, did you also want to say something?
Yes. So I come from the financial side because I worked for Deloitte. So there was a lot of people and everyone around in those circles just always investing financially, like in the financial markets in the United States. But I'll talk about my personal experience, and I don't want to speak for Alice, but she gave a very good point of what I'm going to speak to, which is we as women are much less likely to invest. That's not that's a fact, because it's more overwhelming than we think. So we are less likely to take a risk, any financial risk. And we put this pressure on ourselves that when we do have to invest, we have to know everything. We have to have the right expertise. We have to have a right team. We have to have so much money to invest in order to kind of drop everything. But what actually gets people to start investing, and what got me to start investing for the first time this year, was realizing that I could start with a small amount. I don't have to quit my job and retire off of this investment. It can start small. And I'm aware that other people don't have access to the financial markets that I do, that I can invest in as a US resident, citizen now, sorry. But there are other ways that they do it. For example, like I know in Kenya, there's groups of women that save together and eventually have enough money to buy a small plot of land. And then that's how they start. And so communally they invest and it works. And so that's just my insight on kind of like the female perspective of the barriers to investing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I go next?
Yeah.
Yes. Mine has been a wonderful experience. I am naturally gifted. I know that I'm an entrepreneur, but one of my biggest challenge has been small distractions. I remember there was a time here in Kampala, I and Robert started selling cards and the business was booming. Then it reached a point in time where like we totally had no time like for the cards. And that was because of something that actually came in. There was that distraction. We actually enrolled for salsa classes and all that. And so most of the time it would end up late. Then sometimes you doing other things that come by, school and all that. So it really became totally hard to actually, it really became actually hard to concentrate on that. Then the other thing has been in terms of frustration, in terms of the people that you trust in, because there's a thin line balancing between work and doing a business and doing business. So a lot of distraction, that there are few people out there that you can fully trust, like to help you carry out some of the investments that you're actually putting in. So for me, that has been my weakness, the distractions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anyone else? Someone who we have heard less of, maybe? Esther, Gero, Eamon.
Is my camera? It's a bit dark where I am, but I'm sure you can see me. The question which I had, I think it has sort of been answered. Like, let's say here in Uganda and maybe around Africa, like we do face out of legal uncertainty. It's practically, let's say, like it's a 50% chance they're going to cheat you or they aren't going to. Let's say, even if you own the land, you're going to find people on it later who are saying, okay, now this is mine. And I'm just wondering, what I was wondering is, does anyone out there, let's say, like those of you who are in the Netherlands or elsewhere, like, do you face the same kind of issues, or like, are they completely different?
Okay. maybe I can give some feedback from here, from the Netherlands and Belgium. Here, it's very different. If you have a property, land property right now, you are very sure that you have it. The court system works. The government stabilizes the ownership. So there's a lot of certainty if you have ownership of a property that you can defend it because the state is strong and protects it. It also means that property prices are very high, like houses here are very expensive, and people have a very small house or apartment or garden because everything is very regulated. Some that can be linked to it, not always, but it does mean here right now it's the case that if you buy something, and there is many gradations. With the Legal Accelerator I headed there, we looked at legal innovations also on land rights, and you have many countries that are working on putting the land rights on the blockchain or putting the land rights in a database and making it more transparent. And you have satellite images now gradually. So there's more and more technology helping the legal certainty, but there's still challenges with corruption, or even if you have a perfect database, you can have a corrupt notary who can make a change, or so many countries are finding. But the general story is of progress in these domains and more reliable legal titles, at least when it comes to land. The problem also can be that it can be as soon as there is an interest of foreign investors to buy land, let's say, imagine in Uganda, then they will have an incentive to make sure they can defend their property, but it doesn't always help the local population either. So that's also a thing. If all the Americans want to buy a nice piece of, no, I'm not going to use the Americans as an example. Europeans want to buy a nice piece of land in Uganda, then they will want certainty, but maybe it has disadvantages for the local population. Yeah. Anyone else on this topic?
I'm happy to go pretty quickly. Just on one, this is a very, very small point, and I'm not complaining at all. It's just the one point that we often think about, the uncertainty in developing countries. But there was also one uncertainty from the Dutch government that reneged on its promise of a 30% ruling. This is really a side issue, but just to say that there are some legal uncertainty. So basically, the Dutch government made promises to expats like me about certain tax issues, but then they went back on their word on it and cut it off before they said they would. So generally, it's very, very strong in the Netherlands and the US is where I'm from, but there are still some uncertainties that may happen from the government side. The main thing I'm thanks to everyone that presented. It's very different from my own background and location and so on. The main thing I think about basically is how to invest in an ethical way, and how to, does that mean making as much money as possible and then donating more of it? Does it mean making less money but doing it in a more ethical way? I don't know if any of you saw the news today. Solar panels are now being barred from the US. So if you think about trying to invest in something like solar, that's probably doing something good for the world and potentially a financial return. This is potentially associated with forced labor / genocide in China. So it's very complicated. It's hard for me to figure out a way to invest in traditional sort of investments, how to do something that's ethical. So if you have any feedback, ideas, comments, things to read, I'd welcome that.
Okay. Anyone can give tips in the chat also for Eamon or I know that I worked in the bank for a while, and for example, a bank like ING also has an ethical team, and there's more and more interest in publishing these ethical indexes, or so there is a movement there, but it's evolving slow. And I think, So I don't have immediately a great literature list on that, just from my personal thing. But maybe I can find someone who knows more. Yeah. But I also look at investing as but that's more the entrepreneurial side than the stock market side, or as a way to. There is you can make money with investments, and you should, and ideally you do. I think if you do it, it also helps you from consuming too much, or consumption you don't need. So if you commit to an investment, it can be a way to change your behavior a bit. I'm not saying I always apply this well, but it can be used like in that way. And I also like the notion of, I think there's many people who are what I see is in the North, many people with too much money, and then they just keep buying like 2 or 3 apartments or more in the stocks, but the money doesn't mean anything anymore. It's just too much. And in the South, there's a lot of opportunities, but people don't have money. I mean, just if I use the cliches or and it's partially the reality. I think people in the North can benefit more from, let's say, investing less in the same asset class, but more in different things, and skin in the game, and making sure, kind of like learning also, investing as, if you do something, you meet new people, you learn new skills, it can enrich you in other ways. So yeah. Hello, Hilly. Hilly is a wonderful
Hello,
name.
it's Joel. Yeah.
Okay. What would you like to share? Hilly? Joel?
I've shared.
You already shared. Yeah, okay.
Yes, I had issues with my.
It confused me. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think, does anyone else have a question, another question for the group, or a suggestion? One of the things that, one of the questions we have with Humanity Solutions is, if Africa is one of the continents where the population is growing fast, and where there is growth in that sense, and so we are, and it's a huge continent. So we are also looking at this with the question. That's why it's interesting to have this dialogue, and I find it like, how can you invest in Africa or Africans if you're not African, in a way that's beneficial to both communities or to both sides? It's also a question we find interesting, and this dialogue also helps us a little bit with exploring that. Yeah. Everyone wants to go and eat something, dinner. I think we're gradually wrapping up, unless someone wants to say something. I thought it was interesting.
Just a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if Humanity Resolutions have an opportunity for maybe training or coaching on investments and resolution back in Uganda.
Yeah, we will look at that. Our lowest threshold way of training is we set up a YouTube channel on something, and maybe we can start with that while looking at this, how we can train more Ugandans on becoming more investment savvy. It's something we can look at. Yeah, anyone else?
Yes, I have a question. Apart from these and the trainings, what are some of your programs that you have in place? Yeah, thanks.
Humanity Solutions is a very young organization, so we are not so big. What we have is 2 team members, Esther and Gero. They're in the call here, currently working from Kampala, and I also told Robert and the family that this Gulu land is very large for us. And so we needed to have patience and take time to see how we can help build that or connection. What we are currently focusing on is one, helping an NGO in Uganda to move to Kenya and build websites for governments and citizen interaction for governments. Not build, but evaluate websites of governments and the citizen interaction with governments. So that's one thing we work on. And Esther and Garo also work on further developing Summanity and developing other communities and websites and properties that you can find on humanitysolutions.net. There is a page called Ecosystem. You can get a better idea of other properties we're developing digitally then. So these are some of the things we're working on right now. We also have some large projects in the Netherlands advising the government here. So that's very different. That's advising. Yeah, there is one project with the Ministry of Justice in the Netherlands on helping them think through if they are going to invest €1 billion in the future of justice in the Netherlands, what that looks like. So it's a very large-scale project in that sense. I see someone wrote a long thing in the chat. Yeah, there's a lot of nasty investments still taking place, that's for sure. And there is a difference in responsibility. I agree, Natalia. There's, yeah. Okay. I hope you found it somewhat interesting. I found it interesting. I learned a few things. I saw a few new faces. That's always great. And every month we have a Summanity like this. So you're always welcome to join also in future talks. And we'll stay in touch with the Gulu land also to see how we can evolve that. Have a wonderful day. Oh, there's a new message. Thanks, will and all, says Eamon. Thanks to all also. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.